Tulip Mania was during the Dutch Golden Age when the prices for tulip flowers reached extraordinary high levels. It is one of the first recorded speculative bubble in history. Dutch Republic, which was one of the world's leading economy and financial powers in the 17th century, with the highest per capita income in the world. The major acceleration in prices started in 1634 and then dramatically collapsed in February 1637 due to outbreak of bubonic plague. At the peak of the bubble, some single tulip bulb sold for more than 10 times the annual income of a skilled worker. Tulip mania gained popular attention in 1841 when the publication of the book Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowd, written by a Scottish journalist, Charles Mackay, who wrote that at one point 12 acres of land were offered for a single Semper Augustus bulb. Mackay claimed that many investors were ruined by the fall in prices and Dutch commerce suffered a severe shock. Many modern scholars believed that the mania was not as destructive as he described it. The introduction of the tulip to Europe is from the Ottoman Empire in 1554 to Vienna, along with other new plants like potatoes, peppers, tomatoes, and other vegetables. These tulip bulbs were soon distributed from Vienna to other areas. The tulip was different from other flowers known to Europe at that time. As it had intense petal colors, the position of it became the status symbol and soon it became a luxury item. Slowly, there was a rise of tulip growers and they named their tulips with exalted titles or prefixed it with admiral and other such prefixes. Soon there were some inventions as well. Tulips can grow from bulbs and can be propagated through both seeds and buds. Seeds from a tulip will form a flowering bulb after 7 to 12 years, whereas if a bulb grows into the flower, the original bulb will disappear, but a clone bulb forms in its place along with buds. So, a properly cultivated buds will become flowering bulbs of their own in a couple of years' time. The major hurdle was the tulip blooms in April and May for about 1 week, and so in June to September, bulbs can be uprooted and moved. During the rest of the year, florists or tulip traders signed contracts before a notary to buy tulips at the end of the season. Soon, professional tulip growers got paid higher and higher prices for the bulb, so prices kept on rising steadily. The tulip bulb prices continued to rise throughout 1636. By November, the price of common unbroken tulip bulbs also began to increase, so that soon any tulip bulb could fetch hundreds of guilders, the then currencies for the Dutch. Soon the Dutch created a formal futures market where contracts to buy bulbs at the end of the season were bought and sold. The Dutch described tulip contract trading as windhandel, literally wind trade, because there was no bulbs that were actually changing hands. The entire business was accomplished on the contracts and no exchange of flowers. By 1636, the tulip bulb became the fourth leading export product of the Netherlands. The tulip mania reached its peak during the winter of 1636 to 37 when the contracts were changing hands many times in a year and no deliveries were made to fulfill any of these contracts. The collapse began in Haarlem when, for the first time, buyers apparently refused to show up at a routine bulb auction. It was because Haarlem was suffering from an outbreak of a bubonic plague. People were purchasing bulbs at higher and higher prices, intending to resell them for a profit. Such a scheme could not last unless someone was ultimately willing to pay even higher prices and take the possession of the bulbs. In February of 1637, tulip traders could no longer find new buyers willing to pay increasingly inflated price for their bulbs. As the realization kicks in, the demand for tulips collapsed and prices start to plummet. People who had contracts to buy the bulbs were not honoring the deal anymore. The panicked tulip speculators finally sought help from the government, which responded by declaring that anyone who had bought contracts to purchase bulbs in the future could void their contract by making a payment of a 10% fee.